All right. I'm back. Dominique Foxworth isn't here. It's Ben Solak. You might be confused if you're watching the audio.
He's easily mistaken for Dominique Foxworth.
I'm actually always love to have Dominique, but I'm especially glad to have you here to have a very serious State of the Union on the Philadelphia Eagles after last night's debacle. We will also talk about the Chargers, their playoff prospects, Justin Herbert's incredible toughness, which is really like the main takeaway I feel like on the Chargers side is like, holy smokes, that dude is tough. But I do want to talk to you about the Eagles, and I don't want it to just be a conversation like the offense sucks. We know the offense sucks. We've been having the same conversation about the ways the offense sucks now for 14 weeks. I want to talk to you a little bit about the future too. I'm springing this on you. It's time for Tanner McKee takes. No. Yes. No. Actually, yes.
I mean, you know I keep a Tanner McKee take at all times on the hip. I'm ready to go.
We're also going to talk about the NFC weaknesses of the NFC contenders. We did AFC last week. People can go check that out. RJ Harvey took it as bulletin board material because he had a good game. No, but we're going to do the top 10, I think, NFC teams because the playoff field is still wide open on both sides, which is very exciting. But first, we're going to start by talking about Monday Night Football. Let's just dive into the Eagles stuff right away. Chargers fans, I promise you, we are going to talk about Justin Herbert and your team and your very good, very well-coached defense. But this was tough. It was tough to watch from the Eagles' perspective, a team that has, a quarterback who really tries not to turn the ball over, sometimes to his own detriment, turned the ball over several times, including multiple times on one possession, which was incredible. One of the all-time great ref announcements afterwards, by the way, was the interception fumble.
Both Joe Buck and Scott Novak killed it. Joe Buck's call is amazing. Joe Buck calls it like it always happens. He's like picked up and fumbled and recovered and fumbled again, everything. Just as if it's a walk in the park. I would have been like incoherent, going ballistic in the booth. I was so impressed.
So I think with the Eagles offense, the defense was awesome, which is what's so sad. I mean, the defense has been, outside of getting run on by Chicago, we saw really, I think, a continuation of what you saw the prior 2 weeks against the NFC North teams, just super stout, gave up a couple of big runs and in man coverage, some Herbert scrambles, but by and large, we're glued to the Chargers receivers.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that when we get to the Chargers side. But the offense was a disaster. So there's two ways in this. I think one is just how much of a disaster, or is it turnovers coloring this more than it should? The other way is whether any of this is fixable and whose fault it is. Let's do that part, because I think, we've got the whole season sample size at this point. They can't run the ball. The passing game is inconsistent. I think for parts of this season, most of the season, Kevin Patullo has taken the majority of the ire. It's because it's like, these are the same guys we saw last year. They're so talented. It has to be the one change. So I think my first question for you is, how much of what we saw last night do you put on Patullo versus player ?
So I think for the last 14 weeks, I think definitely problem 101 is Patullo. I do think Patullo owns the biggest piece of the pie. Patullo's week 14 game against the Chargers wasn't inherently bad, but it was the fact that the Eagles were trying some new stuff in the passing game on December 8th that really reflects, I think, poorly on Patullo, right? To me, the story of the first two quarters, before we knew how the chips would fall, was, oh man, the Eagles are trying to, do a lot more empty stuff and, find a way to get a quick pass game going. Man, you heard Troy Aikman multiple times. Hey, this is a good concept here. We're running a clear out. We're running an intermediate crosser behind it, right? Jalen Hurts had 11 pass attempts, 10 to 19 yards down the field in that game. Last 3 seasons, regular and postseason, that's tied for the most he's had in a game, right? And the Cowboys game is from 2 weeks ago is also 11 attempts, right? They've been trying over the last few weeks to access areas of the field and parts of the passing game that previously they kind of just didn't run with Jalen Hurts and kept in their back pocket. So there were adjustments that were good, but the fact that we're making them now and it took us so long to get there, I think is a big referendum on Patullo. So this individual game, not so much, but the fact that we got it. And think about the defense you're trying this against. The Chargers are the team you want to be let's make window throws between zones in the middle of the field. This is what these guys do best is packing these zones and condensing that space. They want to make you check it down underneath. And so that to me is the Patullo arc of this. If we're just talking about who had the worst game against the Chargers, that is not a hard question. The quarterback had the worst game of all the Eagles' offensive contributors against the Chargers.
Yeah. A.J. Brown also not blameless here. Bad game, despite the yardage. You know, I mean, could have caught probably Jalen's second best pass of the night downfield, and then the best one was the actual he threw an in-breaker, and I was like,
The Devontae Smith 3rd and 16 throw. It is
just a throw he doesn't throw.
It's a one-play argument for like the insane quarterback brain, right? Like the level of confidence that Hurts has. Whoever it is who has the quote, quarterback either has to believe in God or believe he is God, right? For Jalen to have, to have such a bad game, and then on that throw, be like, yeah, I just ripped these. Don't worry about it. It's absurd.
A throw he like does not throw.
Never access.
And like one of the interceptions, you could feel AJ, the one over the middle of the field, AJ pulled up a little bit because he knew the hit was coming. So I guess you could argue it was like Henley, I think, coming over the middle of the field.
It was a Perriman. I also thought it was Henley. Yeah,
okay. So, you know, not his best game. I also hate the way they use Devontae Smith so much outside. Like it's so much just like Devontae, here's a screen, make something happen. Here's a short. But yeah, the quarterback was the biggest issue in this game. The quarterback has been a problem all season. The quarterback has been a lesser problem than the structure of the offense and whatnot. But I do think that the play calling is limited by the quarterback. I think 100%. If you gave Kevin Patullo and the last Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, Steichen, you know, just
Sirianni as well.
Sirianni, truth serum. What they would tell you is, what do you expect us to do when the quarterback doesn't use over 33% of the field?
Right.
The middle of the field. And to, you know, Jalen Hurts throws over the middle of the field at the lowest rate in football. Maybe Penix was close to it. I don't know, right before he got hurt. It turns up the level of difficulty. Now, why wasn't this a problem last year? Because they could run the ball last year. So defenses had to play single high, and then they could just take the things that Jalen Hurts is good at. But when where I'm at with Hurts now, Ben, it reminds me a lot of the end of the Russell Wilson era when his mobility declined.
Yep.
And I was wrong at the time. I was like, let Russ cook. I didn't understand back then.
Yeah.
Like we're talking like 2021-ish, right? When the 2-eye stuff happened, how much Russell needed those coverages because of the run game at that point when he was no longer mobile. Yeah. Because there was an earlier point in Russell's career where he was so mobile it didn't matter because he could just extend and make crazy plays. When the mobility started going away and the run game wasn't there, things got ugly. That's where I'm at with Hurts right now.
We were all younger and starry-eyed back then in 2020. We were like, Mahomes will throw for 5,000 yards every year. Like, defenses can't do anything. And yeah, you learn a lot about.
He reminds me a lot of him, and I think I bring that up to make this case. It's not that Jalen Hurts isn't a starting level quarterback. It's not that you can't build a successful offense around him. I am of the belief now, though, that you cannot build a successful offense with him unless you can run the football.
Yeah,
I think that's where I'm coming down on this.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of like I'm not remarkably like more down on Jalen Hurts after this game than I was before this game. Yeah. Like he has a 5 turnover day. It's clearly like a huge aberration day for him. He largely does a great job avoiding turnovers, right? I was the first guy after Herbert's 4 interception game against the Texans in the playoffs last year to be like, listen, this is not the guy. Like, this was just a terrible game in prime time. Like, wash it down the sink and go into the next one. And so I find myself not any more down on him than I have been. But that's also because I didn't get up on him in 2024. Yeah. Like I was one of the guys there like, nah, he's not a top 10 quarterback. You don't just win a Super Bowl and become a top 10 guy. It is the extremely challenging nature of football. It is the harsh reality that there are like 3 elite dudes at quarterback who just every year auto print offense. And then there's just a glut of A tier to B tier guys you can win with if the circumstances are right, when the rest of the team is good, when the scheming is great, they have equivalent numbers. And at any time we are able, as fan bases, to talk ourselves into these guys at the peaks, right? We have had these moments in the last 5 years with Tua Tagovailoa and with Brock Purdy and with Jimmy Garoppolo and with Jalen Hurts. So we have had, with Jared Goff, we have, and that's not to say all those quarterbacks are the same. They have different strengths and different weaknesses. We can, rank them within the tiers. But there is a a belief, largely like also like kind of peddled by us, right? Peddled by like, quarterback analyzers and sports media, whatever, that like, Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, Lamar 3, Joe Burrow 4. And then there's just this gradual curve, and like 5, 6, and 7, 8 are kind of a little bit worse. And then 9, 10, 11, 12. No, there are the halves, and then there's just an enormous chunk of have nots. And when you can get the stars to align, it's what Howie Roseman does very well, right? When you get the stars to align, oh man, Jalen Hurts is elite. Jalen Hurts is clutch. Look at all this. But if you go back, this is always my thing with that 2024 season. First month of the season, they're 2-2. They're trying to figure out the offense. They're not running the ball all the time. Like Saquon just got there. They were injured. AJ and Devontae missed time. The week 5 bye hit. They came out in week 6, and Jalen just stopped turning the ball over. They ran an offense that was super high run rate over expectation. They didn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. That's where the interceptions happen. So where the bodies are. And Jalen went from having over 1 turnover a game to having 4 turnovers over the course of the last 15 games of the season, right? Fumbles and interceptions. They very clearly sat down in week 5 and said, if you minimize your impact on this offense, if your number one job is taking away your own negatives, the other 21 can handle us, and we can push ourselves into a postseason. That's the nature of a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, is that he is absolutely clutch. He can make great throws down the field, those go balls, but this is not a guy you want to be a high volume player throwing all 3 levels of the field. Doesn't have that skill set. That's okay. You can win games with it, but he doesn't have that skill set.
The hand interception, to me, the defensive tackle that led to the whole cluster, is just so indicative of like where Hurts struggles as a post-snap processor, right? It was 3rd and 2. They're down 7-3 at this point. It's like halfway through the second quarter. And the Chargers run like a little replacement pressure. It looks like, I think not Dye was going to be the blitzer. Hand drops, Dye does a little coffee house and drops. And then Henley, I think, comes.
Yeah.
And Jalen takes one look. He sees Henley coming, and he just assumes AJ Brown on like it was like a little juke route, right? Juke route, pardon me. I just feel like smart defensive play callers like Jesse Minter with very well coached zone based defenses are going to do that to him until the end of time. And it's just one play. I'm just saying, but when we ask like, well, why doesn't he throw over the middle of the field? He doesn't see it well. So to go back to kind of what you're talking about with Hurts and like the win with, because I think that's your diagnosis is correct. The Eagles are in a tough spot here. First of all, the conversation around Hurts generally is just so complicated by the fact that the 2 best games of his career were Super Bowls.
Yeah,
it's such a disaster. Like it's so complicated because you know what I mean.
He's the pinnacle for the quarterback wins argument, and it's hard to make those arguments when there's trophies in the case, right? It's hard to refute them, I should say.
He himself was an engine of those waves. It wasn't even like he rode the wave. He was amazing in those 2 games, and it's just so. And he has a big contract he has a no trade clause. I'm looking at it right now. I just pulled it up. They ain't getting out of this. Now, the Eagles, of course, have shown an unusual willingness to make bold moves at the quarterback position. I think any decisions now in the season are off the table. There's no way they do it, right? End of the season, if things don't turn around, what do you do? So we should, put the information out there for those who don't know. Their backup quarterback, Tanner McKee, has been excellent in very limited action. Yeah. But, preseason and all that. So.
Yeah, week 18 against the Giants. How dare you? All right, he was like 21 for 29, 280. You fire Patullo, you get a new OC in the building, and then you run him back with Hurts. Like that's absolutely what you do, right? Like it was a 4 interception game. You brought up the AJ Brown one, like. The Devontae one's another good example. Devontae does not run a great route, and the Eagles are running a very familiar concept that Patullo runs all the time. Dante Jackson's sitting on it, right? If you have these sorts of games, like when the offense has been humming and like early in the season, obviously that's very concerning. In this moment, like it definitely feels like the Eagles offense as a whole is very, very jaded, right? Like Devontae being low effort on a route is like such a rare thing to see. Yeah. On that Dante Jackson pick, like he's walking the route, right? And
everybody on the Eagles offense right now looks completely disinterested in playing football.
Right, exactly. And like there's no Lane Johnson, he's hurt, and there's no Jason Kelsey. These have been like the vocal leaders of the team for the time. Like AJ Brown, that's not really the thing that he does best. Saquon Barkley's only been there for 2 years. Like Jalen's shtick, and forgive me, like it is a shtick, because obviously I've worn really thin on people this season particularly, and so you need a mouthwash offseason. I think that if you get a much more functional, experienced offensive coordinator in there, it's going to look way less painful, even though you're still going to have some of the hard limits that we've talked about with Jalen Hurts, right? Jeff Stoutland's been there for a decade. 9 out of the 10 years, Eagles have had an unbelievable offensive line. Like he has 100% earned the benefit of the doubt to like retool this group a little bit, get a healthier for Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens. And so I don't think you see any moves right now this upcoming year, and that's before we even get to the contract, which is like extremely difficult to move.
Extremely difficult, and also, the bigger decision I think is not whether to move to McKee, because I don't think they will. It's whether they trade McKee if they get offers for him, knowing.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if they like flip McKee and then they go sign Malik Willis in free agency, right? And then by week like 10 next year, we're seeing Malik Willis snaps because Jalen Hurts is out for 3 weeks, and it's just because Howie's belief in quarterback 2 is less develop a guy to keep him here in case I need him, and is more churn and burn, right? And so like, yeah.
I think if they do what we're discussing, which I think is the most likely outcome, you're right. You bring in a new offensive coordinator. You pray that Mike McDaniel gets fired, because
not gonna happen, dude. The Dolphins are playing their tails off right now.
The run game is absolutely cooking, and I think that's what brings me to like job number 1 for the Eagles organization. This is my firm belief. If you continue with Hurts next, assuming things don't turn around, maybe you squeak into the playoffs, you get eliminated, whatever. You have to accept the reality that your quarterback has to be paired with a good run game to have success, because of the way he sees the field and your need to get single high coverages. This entire offseason has to be about making sure you can run the football in 2026. You will not be successful unless you can run the football better. And that's more than that's personnel. Obviously Johnson's been out. We talked about that, but there's been other injuries. That scheme, my next offensive coordinator hire, I am finding the best run game designer on planet Earth, because that is, to me, is the most important thing this Eagles team has to do next year.
Go get somebody out of Chicago or Detroit. Go get somebody who's been near Ben Johnson for a couple of years, right? And has kind of seen how that preparation goes.
That turnaround.
Right? Go get you an Antoine Randall, right? Who's the assistant head coach there. Eric Bieniemy is the running backs coach there. If it's Bieniemy, it'd be hilarious. But generally, like, you need to get somebody who's been adjacent to a really diverse running game, right? Stoutland has the ability to, I think, get the offensive line there, but the Eagles have been less about running game diversity and dominance and more about like box counts, number counts, RPOs, quarterback run game with Jalen Hurts.
Which doesn't happen anymore, by the way.
Right, exactly. And I don't know why they don't run Hurts. There's 10,000 different theories. He doesn't want to, they don't want to. I don't know. But you have to be able to win games in the handoff game, right? In just the true like under center or gun handoff game. And you have the running back to do it. You have the tackles to do it. If Landon and Cam are healthy, you have the interior to do it. They kind of have, everybody has to come back healthy next year. We'll see if that happens. Lane's getting old, right? Mailata's also getting old. But the other thing you need, right? That's the one thing, the crown jewel of this all. Their tight end 2 sucks. And that sounds like, like who cares? But like they use Dallas Goedert so much in the passing game, so he doesn't block as much.
You need a blocking tight end. We've been on this for...
They cannot get a 6th body into the blocking scheme outside of the 5 offensive linemen reliably. And just that limits so dramatically what you can do from an X's and O's perspective. Totally. And so like, Johnny Munt coming down, I don't know if he's a free agent, but like that sort of a guy.
The John Bass, the Johnny Munt, the...
Jackson Hawes.
AJ Barner, who could actually catch passes, but Jackson Hawes is okay. So I alluded to the fact that the Eagles we don't even have to talk about the Eagles defense. They were excellent. There's really nothing much to talk about. Herbert's so NGS, we talk about completion percentage over expected, right? Like how much does the quarterback exceed the expected? Herbert's expected completion percentage in this game. Not his actual completion percentage, which was very low. What was expected based on where the defenders and the receivers are and the difficulty of the throw? They're accounting for all of this. Was 49%.
That's tough day in the office.
It felt like every other down was a jailbreak with guys just bursting through the A gap. They killed them with Dean as a blitzer a few times. So it's like. First I want to say, like, it was an unbelievable performance given the circumstances by Justin Herbert. Probably the worst quarterbacking circumstances of the season. I guess there's been games against the Texans and the
I mean,
Seahawks.
it was the most pressure a quarterback's been this season, right?
Right.
He was
Yes.
pressured on
And yes.
68% of the dropbacks.
Yes.
By
That's
the way,
crazy.
just barely clearing Shador Sanders, who was also pressured on like 63% of his dropbacks against the Titans this past week. But the pressure that Justin Herbert was under was very much authored by other individuals as opposed to the Browns' pressure.
Many quick pressures. He was their leading rusher. They called a zone read with him in the end, by the way, which is hilarious.
Multiple.
But
They came out first play of overtime, did it again.
Yeah. Just warrior type. I don't even know what to say. There were a couple unbelievable. There's one throw. Oh my God. He made like rolling to his left and extending where he found, I think it was McConkey. That was just unbelievable, like arm strength and arm talent. But like, I think where I struggle here. So yes. So I think first we must acknowledge Justin Herbert, who was playing with a fractured left hand, went out there and put the team on his back in unbelievably difficult circumstances. I guess where I struggle though is now the Chargers are what, 9-3, right?
I want to say it's 9-4, right? Because they played 13 weeks. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a playoff team. I just can't get behind, even as flawed as teams are in the AFC. I just like I'm watching him do this, and like it's like how long can they keep it up? You know what I mean? It's just such a high wire act. We'll talk about the defense in a second, which is more sustainable and normal and good. But offensively, the offensive line situation is so dire. It's like, how long can a team win this way? Also, the amount of contact he takes is deeply uncomfortable for me to watch. I'm just, ugh.
I think they're totally dead in the water. Like I do. Like and I hate that I feel that way. I would love to be wrong about it. I have seen way too many Greg Roman offenses have issues along the offensive line or have issues in the wide receiver room and just never get remotely close to authoring a solution, right? There's a lot that Roman does in terms of his playbook and creativity and game planning, like, like July to August to September sort of phase. That's very, very good. In season, it's just a very, 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 very static offense. Always has been. And like, going back to the Ravens days with the issues of like the receivers running into the same areas and never getting the routes correct, going back to the Buffalo days and never being able to get a play action pass game going. Like, it's just when they hit a wall, you very rarely see them get over it. And it is doubly so because Herbert, whom I love to death and I think is amazing and had an unbelievable game. Herbert's not the sort of guy to be like, well, this isn't working, so let me cheese this and whatever. Like, obviously he scrambled a bunch. He only attempted a pass, Mina, on 64% of his dropbacks. Because he got scrambled on 19% and he got sacked on 17%. That's an absurd number. It's the lowest of his career by a mile. So he is like kind of, cheesing it, coloring the lines as is his way. But like the Kamani Vidal wheel route to Cooper DeJean, that's just a classic Justin Herbert being like, aha, one-on-one coverage, the wheel route. And it's like, Justin, no, it's the backup running back against Cooper DeJean. Like, don't. Yeah. But he has this like, I trust my guys to make plays. I'm gonna make
it's always been that way. Yeah.
Lad McConkey 40 yards down the field. Like, dude, he's blanketed. Like, I know it's Lad, but it's not the matchup today. And so I just think they're going to keep banging their head into the wall. Like, they didn't call a screen. They didn't call a screen. Mina, the pass rush. Justin at one point was being pressured on 75% of his dropbacks. They didn't call a screen.
He had hold on. He had this shocked me, a 10.4 yard average depth of target. That's crazy.
It is a level of obstinance that I honestly would admire if it didn't drive me insane.
By the way, I pulled this up because I was like, because the pressure rate was so insane. Like you said, it was most of the season. In my heart, I suspected this, and yes, Mekhi Becton gave up 11 pressures in this game, which is an insane number for a guard. He was awful. How many times did Jordan Davis? Whew.
Yeah, Jordan Davis, like that. That's a classic, like, oh, I practiced against you sort of a game where it's like, I know what you don't like.
Good now, man. Yeah. Jordan Davis. That's another thing. It's just such a bummer with the Eagles because the defense is so good. Chargers defense was also really good though. Obviously it's easier to play Herbert, especially it hurts, especially if you're that style of defense, which is all the stuff that's Hurts kryptonite is like literally what the Chargers. I mean, both the Chargers and the Eagles defense are kind of like twin flames in some ways. But they had such a good beat on the Eagles. Everything, I think you mentioned that the Eagles did try some new stuff on offense in terms of attacking the zones, but I thought by and large, it wasn't like I look at this Chargers defense and there's not like a dominant rusher. Khalil Mack was amazing on the final interception, but they just have a lot of really good players at all three levels who make. But Cam Hart, the interception, I posted something about this and I regretted it because people were like, "Why are you apologizing for Jalen Hurts?" I wasn't. Obviously, he should have thrown that ball. But that, to me, was more of an amazing play by the defense than Jalen Hurts did dumber, worse things in this game.
Yeah.
It's tight window throw. You attempted it. Yeah, probably shouldn't have done it on first down. I get it. That was an unbelievably good play. Not just heads up, but the athleticism by Cam Hart, who's a bigger corner, to get a hand on that. So good, Ben.
Yeah, took away the underneath route and then sank to the deep route, like exactly as you teach it. And like you said, he's 6'3", 210. And like the first thing you need to be able to beat the Eagles is have a corner that is physical enough to play AJ Brown, right? And Hart was the guy who on the definitely like an AJ drop in the end zone there at the end of the game, but also like Cam's running with him and then swings at his arms right when the ball arrives, right? And like I would understand charting that as a drop, not a PBU, but still a good play by the corner, right? He affected the catch point. You could see that like AJ Brown's hands typically very strong there. He's not able to secure it. So Hart's a critical player for them because Dante Jackson, Tardeep Still, and they previously had Benjamin St. Juste, but St. Juste now more of a special teamer. Your other two corners are small guys, right? Still is like a nickel player. You need a guy who can go pound for pound, and you see this when they play the Bengals. You see this when they play the Eagles. They get Cam Hart in a position where he's able to go shot for shot. That's a big deal for playoff football. I know I said they're down in the water, but you're going to face some teams that have a Kayshon Boutte there, right? A Cortland Sutton there. There's like a big vertical X player. You got to have that body type.
This is the note I've had on watching the Texans and the Cowboys against the Chiefs, and I love me some Trent McDuffie. Some of those dudes are just too big for him, man. Like some of those dudes are just too big. Wingspan matters. You need a guy who's got go gadget arms. Seahawks have Woolen, matchups. It's all about matchups. Texans. I love those big receivers.
Yeah.
64.
The Texans' offensive solution being like, just get the biggest players we got out there.
Throw over the middle of the field.
It's delightful. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about that. We got a game this week, right? Who are they? It's a good game. I think they're playing.
Texans have...
Right? No, Arizona.
Arizona. They're 9.5 favorites. Yeah.
I'll bring it up then.
Yeah.
Anyways.
The last thing I will say just about the Chargers is that, like, I think this is important because of, like, I talked about, like, those curves, like how good are quarterbacks. It's important to clarify with the Chargers. This is not a bad offensive line. This is a prohibitively bad, like, worst offensive line of the last 3 to 5 years. Like, this is tectonically, I would take the Raiders offensive line over this Chargers line. I'm almost positive. Like, it is.
I know. I went back and forth on the Raiders versus the Chargers. In this game, I was like, I can't. It's the quick pressure. There were just plays where it's like there's nothing. There's nothing.
And again, talking about banging heads in the wall, they have been losing to A-gap pressure since week 1. It is week 14. Nakobe Dean steps up into the A-gap. Nobody has any idea what to do. It is astonishing to watch.
The amount of unblocked A-gap pressures that you see week to week is jarring for this team. And also
and people like, Morgan Hampton, not good reps. Listen,
that was tough.
Hampton's going there and trying to deliver like massive body shots to guys who are moving at full speed. On the second one, Becton chips Bond out of Hampton's way. Like they have no chemistry, they have no sense of timing, they have no good rules. Fangio had him just in a box for 4 quarters. It was not nice.
Okay. So I mean, both these teams are probably still in the playoffs. I think they both have, I guess what I'll put a pin on this is they both have good enough and well-coached enough defenses to where they're not going to get, everything is going to be competitive because of that. And it's, as it was here. But I think we both have major questions about the tenability, I guess, of the
offense. If you had to guess which one wins a playoff game, who are you taking? Eagles will likely be playing like Niners, Seahawks, Rams, 3 seed, 6 seed sort of a situation. Chargers will likely be on the road, but facing the AFC North champion, right? Ravens, Steelers.
Oh, then I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah. I should clarify because I said, I think the Chargers are dead in the water. I do think the Eagles are deader in the water. But I do think both teams are dead in the water.
The defense, man. I love the way they play defense. Okay. Obviously, it's going to be a long discussion. We'll see a lot left season with both those teams. Let's take a quick break, come back, and do the NFC teams and also a brief acknowledgement of the Phil Rivers news. All right, we're back. So we're going to do the NFC contenders, but the Phil Rivers news, it's happening. It really seems like it's happening. I saw this last night and I laughed and I got my jokes off. And then it seems like the insiders have been reporting more and more. Essentially, the Indianapolis Colts lose Daniel Jones, brutal Achilles. Oh God, never mind. The news just broke. So the Colts signed Phillip Rivers to their practice squad.
Yes.
It says to support Riley Leonard and serve as a potential option down the road. Riley Leonard himself, who came in and honestly wasn't that bad for Daniel
Agreed.
Jones, is dealing with an injury. So I'm just going to do one take on this because, first of all, we haven't seen Phil Rivers play in 5 years, right? 5 years ago?
Yeah, 20. He played in 2021, okay. But in the 2020 season playoffs. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to do like a take. It's probably, I mean, this.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing is people have been like off of the film. I'm like, dog, like that was in COVID. What are we talking about? There's no film. That's not real.
I know. 2020. I mean, my son wasn't born. I was.
Yep. I had 2 fewer kids than I had now, and I had 10 times as much time as I have now.
So here's the only thing I'm going to say. The Indianapolis Colts over the next 4 weeks face the Seahawks, the Niners, the Jags, who are getting after it right now in the pass rush, and then the Houston Texans. You cannot send 44-year-old Phillip Rivers out there against that defense. That honestly, if they do that, they need to make you must be over the age of 18 to watch this game because the violence is going to be so unsettling. Did you watch Squid Games?
No, but they had to cut cookies out of things with
season 1 there's a very old man who competes in the Squid Games, and at the end is it turns out there's a twist. I won't reveal it, but it turns out amidst all the violence is shuddering in the corner. That is how it's going to feel watching Phillip Rivers if he plays against this Houston Texans.
All right. I have the exact opposite take. They have to do this. I need to see this. I need many 30-year-old men and 40-year-old men across the country to see this. I need them to see what it looks like 4 years off the bench. Phillip Rivers, who has a legitimate Hall of Fame case. Don't know if he's going to get in or not. Not going to get into that. But Phillip Rivers, very, very, very good quarterback. I need them to see what this looks like because
to learn.
Yes,
it needs to be a shot across the bow for.
Yes, we did a lot of Aaron Rodgers looked a little better there at the end of the Jets era, and maybe with the Steelers. And I was like, no, he's too old. And I was like, no, he's processing the game will age well. No, short of Tom Brady and some degree of pseudoscience, magic, wizardry. I don't know what happened there. You cannot be this old and still ride the ride. You gotta get off. And so for science, especially against these defenses, I would like to see it.
It's like when those guys are I would be Serena Williams 101 here. It's someone needs to be a tribute, an example to us all.
If Phillip Rivers starts against the Texans, he will have a time to throw of 1.9 seconds. Jonathan Taylor will have 14 targets. It will be disgusting football.
Leonard actually looked okay.
That's the part that the part that's really, a kick in the groin is that Leonard looked fine and workable for a day 3 rookie, and you could just limp to the finish and be sad. But instead, because he gets hurt, you have to do this. You have to do Phillip Rivers is leaving his children and flying to Indianapolis to save our season.
Can't Russell Wilson just beg to be cut? I mean, all right. Anyways.
Shane and Phillip are boys, is what it is.
I don't have to get into this. All right. So the NFC weaknesses. So weaknesses for every contender. You can go first. This is not the order of the seeding because I did it before the weekend. I sent you the list and it's all out of wax now. But you're gonna do 5 teams. I'm gonna do 5. You can go first. You have the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah. The weakness for the Packers is non-Micah Parsons defensive lineman, right?
Yeah, that is dude. What's up with Rashawn Gary? Can we talk?
The Gary extension was one of those ones where when it happened, I was like, man, if that's for you, that's for you. I was never really there on his peak performances. Pocket pushing is great. Having the ability to finish when you're a guy who he can get to that peak of the pocket and then he can get that tight corner. That is absolutely a desirable trait. He runs unbelievably hot and cold, both from a technique perspective and in my opinion, from an effort perspective. I think his eyes are really, really, really slow. And so in theory, he's a good run defender, but anytime there's misdirection or there's something to read out, I just think he's late to the upkeep. And right now, like he does not to me look like a particularly engaged player, and just that's a really hard way to win in the defensive line where everything happens so fast. So Gary having a like bottom, I think of 80 qualifying edge rushers, he's like 77th right now in pressure rate. Like it is, I didn't have the numbers in front of me, but he's bottom 10 right now in terms of generating one-on-one pressures. The theory behind Parsons was that Parsons would clarify a lot of roles for guys, right? Lucas Van Ness would get to spend more time inside. Rashawn Gary would get less chip help, less elite tackles. It just hasn't happened. And then the defensive tackle room, the Devontae Wyatt injury happens at the end of a win against the Lions. So kind of coming out, everybody feels great about it. But Wyatt was really their number one butt kicker at defensive tackle. Everybody likes Carl Brooks. He's a little bit more of like a slippery player and the penetration player. Behind him, right, Warren Brinson, Nazir Stackhouse. They added Jordan Riley this week. Like it's bottom of the roster players. And that's going to be an issue for them in run defense, especially because as we know from Parsons Cowboys days, teams will solve the Parsons problem by just running the ball a ton, right? And wearing him out, tiring him out. He is a little bit of a lighter player for the edge and beating him in the running game. There's just not a lot of other impactful players there in the pass rush and in run defense for the Packers in the defensive trenches. The Bears weren't able to do it to the degree to which I thought they would. So maybe just Jeff Hafley's going to goat this thing and the linebacker core is really good and they're going to be able to account for it. But if you're telling me the Packers are an early playoff exit, what happened? I'm telling you a team eliminated Parsons with the running game and nobody was able to pick up the slack for him along the defensive line.
Yeah, I think Hafley does so much work to either use Parsons to dictate to defenses or to find ways to get him one-on-ones or to just, throw them off altogether. He drops him into coverage a decent amount. He is very much like the queen on his chessboard,
yeah,
which is great. But like you said, like if an entire pressure plan is oriented around, okay, cool, we're going to get you to double Parsons or triple Parsons or whatever, somebody's got to win other than Parsons. And right now, nobody else is consistently winning. Yeah.
That Bears game, Parsons had 8 pressures. The rest of the team had 10. Ooh. Not tenable.
I have seen some concerns around the Packers' run defense, and you saw in the second half the Bears' rushing attack come alive. But I think it's not a elite run defense, but I do think it's good enough. I especially like watching what they did against Detroit 2 games. I know the Panthers film is concerning to people, but I don't think it's like an Achilles heel for this team.
That Panthers film is the sort of way they will lose to the running game, which is a lot of 5 yards, a lot of grindies. Those games are going to be close, and like you just need Jordan Love in the offense to have a relatively normal day, and you'll still win those. They're not going to lose on the explosive stuff because their second or third level is so good, right? Quay Walker. Yeah. Great season right now. Contract year, Quay Walker. Edgerrin Cooper delivering on what was expected from him after I finished the year. Evan freaking Williams. Holy Moses. He's fun to watch. Second year safety. And then Xavier McKinney. So and Nickel Javon Bullard, who Tom Brady was like over the moon about in that game. Their second and third level fitters are great. And so they can limit the plays after they get through the first level, but there's a lot of movement in the first level. So those grindy running games can get those free 5 yards against them.
All right. I've got the Rams. Tricky. Rams are good at a lot of things. Very complete team. I went with corner. I know that they've played well and I think have been really impressive in big spots. But I think there are certain types of receivers this group struggles with, especially like big receivers. Yeah. Against Philadelphia, A.J. Brown put up 109 yards. Against Carolina, McMillan and Coker, who are both big dudes, had huge days. Emmanuel Forbes gave up a lot. He really struggled. He's a smaller guy. This last week against Michael Wilson, who's another bigger receiver, he put up 142 yards on them. And it's not just one corner. I know I mentioned Forbes, but there's been games where it's been Williams. It's been games where it's been Witherspoon. I get it. But I just think a team with size, true X receivers can give this pass defense trouble.
Yeah, the back seven for the Rams is just not as talented as you'd like to be bringing in to a playoff run. And they play the sort of defense to account for that sort of an issue, right? Where they play a lot of zones and they try to pack the space and what have you. But eventually you're going to be able to get isolation plays, right? Like those Panthers plays were like 3rd down and 4th down. You got to be able to play man coverage on those reps, right? Especially their pass rush downs. So it's just, are you going to run into teams that can neutralize your pass rush, whether via getting rid of the ball quickly or having a really good offensive line? The nice thing is like in the NFC playoff picture, Lions, the offensive line's not there. Eagles, quarterback's not there. Seahawks, we saw what Sam Donald looked like against this rush. The Packers are the one team where it's like, if Jordan Love decides to have,
Christian
yeah,
Watson.
exactly. If
It's
Love
the
decides to have the
archetype
flamethrower
guys.
game, yeah, as long as he gets his absurd interception out early, he'll be great the rest of the game, and they're going to get you. And so the NFC playoff field, I think, doesn't match up well into the Rams defense, except for Green Bay, which we got to see the second Sam Donald game as well to learn a little bit more about that.
I think they're fortunate that Dallas isn't. That would be another team where I think Pickens and Lamb would be a major problem for them, but I don't think the Cowboys get in the way things are.
No, Cowboys and Panthers are two of the tougher matchups for them, and that's like fringe playoff teams right now.
Funny.
Yep.
Okay. Bucks, the reeling Tampa Bay Bucks, really just collapsing down the stretch in terms of these losses, coming off of a collapse to Tyler Shuck.
What are we calling them? Shuck Boys?
The Shuck Boys, yeah. I'm trying to make this a thing. Are you a Shuck Boy?
I was a Shuck Boy coming out. He was like, he's my day 2 guy. He's my underrated guy. I will say, I think the Shuck Boys are getting a little too far over their skis. I
am not saying anything. I'm not making grandiose proclamations.
That wasn't you. There's others.
He's playing well. I'm just saying he's playing well. This last game was really impressive. The playmaking was impressive.
Yeah, the Bucks is tricky because there's like 19 different things to pick from. That's like the
I had no idea what you were going to go with here.
Yeah, so to me, like the big issue is going to be the health along the offense, because I think the defense just kind of is what it is. We were all hoping it was going to be better. They're getting Jamel Dean back, and like they've been a much better pass defense with him on the field, so maybe it's that. But like the defense, kind of the reality is the reality. This offense could have been a lot better and could be a lot better going to the postseason, but they just lost Ben Bredesen again, so now they're going to have 2 backup guards in. It's going to be Dan Feeney and Michael Jordan, not that Michael Jordan, but this has been an issue for them, is that interior pass protection. And then like the Bucks last year were just like a super diverse running game and an excellent screen team with Liam Cohen, and they've just lost that aspect of the game, with Bucky Irving being clearly limited and with the offensive line being not nearly as effective, right? And so you just end up with a lot more Baker Mayfield 3rd and 6s and 3rd and 7s, and Baker, for as fun of a quarterback as he is just, even at his peak with Tampa Bay, is just too volatile to be given that many long passing downs, right? I saw John Ledger, who's a Bucks guy, has been on the show. He said that the Bucks have been like 3 for 17, throwing 10 plus yards on the field over the last 2 weeks. Like, it's just the lack of wide receiver talent. Obviously, Baker's clearly banged up. The pass protection issues, they all compound, and so the Bucks don't have a reliable mode on offense right now. They don't have a reliable, this is how we get our first down, this is how we move our football, because the carousel wide receiver, the carousel running back, but specifically, in my opinion, the carousel of the offensive line has just led to scheme upheaval and unreliability. And so I was holding a candle, like coming out of the trade deadline, coming out of the bye week for the Bucks, like get healthy and coalesce fast. It's gonna be week 15 when Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan maybe get back on the field. Like, it's a little bit too little, too late.
Yeah, it just feels like they are. I know it's I guess appropriate because the pirate ship, it just feels like they're a ship where like every time they plug one hole, 2 new holes sprout up water. It's like one of those cartoons.
They're a little bit tricky to talk about in the way the Eagles are, where it's like, I do think there's a legitimate conversation about how good is Baker actually, and I do think there's a legitimate conversation where like, what is Todd Bowles really bringing to this team? But also, you kind of look at this year and you go, okay, but the biggest piece of the pie issue is just the health. And so, like, if they decide to full run it back, I would totally get that.
I think people getting over their skis talking about quarterbacks. I think some of the conversation about Baker Mayfield was like a bit grandiose at the beginning of the season. However, I actually like. Oh, I'm not going to say that.
Say it. No, it's okay. No one will clip it. No one will aggregate it. Don't worry about it.
I think it's easier to call an offense with him than it is Jalen Hurts. So
100%.
That's Okay. Tried to put that in a way that was
I'm with you. Yeah.
I think that was a good pick for you, though. Yeah, I agree. You saw they signed JPP. JPP's back. Right. Everybody's coming back.
Absolutely. And there's nobody happier about the Phillip Rivers news than Jason Pierre-Paul, right? It's like, all right, I'm not going to be the one clowned on this week. Very good.
No way Phillip Rivers plays against Seattle, right? At least like give him a week that like there's no
there is legitimately nothing that would surprise me. Remember, if Leonard can't go, the alternative is Brett Rippon, which, Draft Network 2018 Ben Solak is thrilled about the Brett Rippon opportunity.
Not doing it. Not doing Brett Rippon in 2025. Okay. The Eagles, we just spent a long time talking about. I just wrote offense. I didn't even try to narrow it down. I'm not even run game, predictable passing game, Jalen Hurts, quarterback, whatever, offense. I'm going to ask you a question, though, that we didn't actually talk about at the top because we kind of went big picture with Hurts and the organization. This is going to be a playoff team, most likely. If you could pick one fix schematically for them to do on offense moving forward, just one thing that you think could help, what would it be?
I would target Saquon Barkley a lot more in the passing game. I think
They
that
ever do that.
So they do. They have these games where he's like, like when they beat the Packers, right? It was like the one like quick bailout throw. He had like a 50-yard catch and run. It's just if your theory is Saquon is not that physically diminished, it's not like, the big season last year, it's just the offensive line issues, what I think is a prevailing theory and a largely correct theory, then get him the ball in space, right? And they're really unwilling to get him the ball in space. The other thing about it is that it really simplifies things for Jalen. It allows him to get into a rhythm, right? You see the teams that target their backs heavily. A lot of times, like it's just, hey, let's put our receivers on the field. Let's run them down the field fast, vertically. Right now, teams have to fear AJ Brown, have to fear Devontae Smith, and we just tell the quarterback, listen, the moment you see linebacker sink, just give it to the back, and we'll just go get 6 yards. And like this would be an extension of our running game. To me, it's a way to get Barkley activated, get more home runs out of Barkley, while also insulating Jalen Hurts, making him feel better about his passing game performance, and also weaponizing the threat of Devontae Smith and AJ Brown in a way they haven't been able to this year.
Making him feel better about his passing game performance.
I wanted to find a better way to say that, but unfortunately that's how it came out.
So patronizing. I like that idea. Yeah, I everything is just so hard right now. Just throw in a few, even if it's unlikely that, most of the, especially against the defense, like let's say they did that against the Chargers, like realistically, you're not getting chunk plays out of that. But boy, could they use some 67-yard completions from him. And I mean, there's a reason why Goddard was like kind of the focal point of the game, right? That against that type of defense, but having a receiving back is very helpful too. Yeah, I think that makes sense. All right. You have the Niners. I'm almost positive I know what you're going to say here.
Lack of pass rush. All right.
It's a lot of these, by the way, from this point forward, but yeah.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a lot. So historic numbers really quickly. They have a 26.3% pressure rate as a team, which is the lowest for any team that Robert Saleh or Chris Kosarick, the defensive line coach, has been on ever. 3.3% sack rate, which, okay, yeah, Ben, like they don't get pressure, they don't get sacks. They also have the lowest pressure to sack rate of a defense in the NFL. So they get after the quarterback the least, and then they're the worst team at converting those pressures into sacks. So through 14 weeks of the season, they only have 16 sacks. That's the lowest since the 2022 Bears. So the lowest in the last 3 years. Through 14 weeks of the season, we've seen a team generate sacks. The great news is your Turgros Matos is coming back, so don't worry. We'll be okay. No more Cleveland Farrell snaps. They have no depth. They have no star talent, and they don't blitz, right? Schematically, it's not what they do, and they're kind of getting away with it. So I don't think we're going to see a big change in that regard. But postseason rules for me, right? Like the number one thing I look for, do you have offensive players who are beaters? Do you have guys who are field tipping, got a game plan for players? Number two thing I look for in terms of a postseason run is, can you get after the passer, right? That is a non-negotiable for winning 3 games against playoff teams. Niners can't do it.
I found myself thinking about the Niners while watching the Chargers. I was watching the Chargers and I was like thinking, you got to protect this offensive line pass protection situation is untenable. When I watch the Niners, I think the lack of pass rush is untenable. Which of these teams is more of the they can't keep getting away with this team? Because the Niners, like offensively, the Niners are actually sort of healthy now. And I think the same is true of the Chargers on defense. So they're kind of like mirror images of each other.
Yeah. I think that the Niners can get away with it for longer because like the secondary has talent. And even though, like I said, like they don't get a lot of pressure consistently, like they do have a guy in Bryce Huff who can move you off of your spot, right? They have at least like one dude on a base down. Chargers cannot keep getting away with this. No shot. Justin Herbert is going to break and die. So that's where I lean, but it's pretty, like I said, since the 2022 Bears, it's pretty untenable there.
Okay. So I have Seattle next. I went with the inconsistent run game. And you might be listening to that and thinking like, well, what about Sam Darnold freaking out? And I would argue that stems from the inconsistent run game. So it's kind of my catch-all. But when I think about the Rams game coming up, I think like what they have to figure out a way to run the ball. Darnold struggles with these kinds of pressures and exotics, and he gets rattled. He makes bad decisions. There is nothing he needs more than to have a somewhat efficient run game in those particular, there's games where it won't matter. Against teams like that's where it matters. And Seattle is 24th in rushing DVOA, 24th in yards before contact per carry. They are averaging 4 expected yards per carry, which is 28th in the NFL. So this is very much an offensive line issue for me and not a back issue. It's part of the reason why every other game, a different back is slightly better than the other. I don't think it's actually about the backs. But, when I think about the playoffs and I imagine a world in which things, the defense is obviously incredible, where things go sideways, I picture myself looking at the NGS dashboard after and seeing like a 30% success rate, 35% success rate, and thinking that's why.
Yeah, and it's difficult because you brought up the backs. I think you're absolutely correct on the backs. There is at least once every game a perfectly blocked run that Kenneth Walker decides he doesn't want to participate in. And I'm always like, Kenneth, this is the one. Like, you finally have it.
That's the thing with the backs, too, is like Charbonnet is like more normal, but Walker has more juice, I think. Yeah. And so they're just kind of like,
And when they need Charbonnet to be normal, just chunk them 3 to 4 yards. That's where he starts not being able to break tackles behind line of scrimmage. They fall behind the sticks. And when they need Kenneth Walker to be the guy who hits the home runs, that's where Charbonnet's having like a great normal game. And just like they've been so off kilter, off beat, not been able to like find the right rhythm. It's a legitimate challenge. I am interested to see what they do when Jake Sundle comes back, because there's the rumor that Oluwatimi is going to stay at center. They're going to put Sundle at right guard over Bradford, which I like, but also week 15, like we got to get this right now. And I'm
Ravens
not sure they can.
Fans and Seahawks fans might be neck and neck for who hates their right guard situation more in the NFL. The guard situation in Seattle is a major problem in the run game.
Yeah. And I think Zabel also Zabel has had a really nice rookie season since the injury, which I know he didn't miss a lot of time, but I will say Zabel last few weeks has had some rougher snaps than I was seeing in the first half of the season. So if he's banged up as well, like you're just kind of net negative across the board in the running game.
Might take him a second to get back to, I'm wondering where they are in run block win. Interesting. All right. I'll talk about that.
Let's find adjusted line.
Do not agree with this. Okay. You got the Lions next. We got 4 more teams, but you got the Lions.
Yeah. The issue is the interior pass protection, and much like you with the Seahawks running game and how it affects the quarterback, the Lions interior pass protection would be more survivable if not for the fact that specifically for Jared Goff, who does not relocate his spot well, who does not throw well off platform, like this is the kryptonite. This is the big issue. You see it both when it happens. Graham Glasgow gets pushed back. Tate Ratledge loses on a rep. The carousel left guard was a big problem for them against the Cowboys. You see it affect the accuracy and the throw comes out too fast. You also see it affect Goff when it doesn't happen, right? You can tell that he feels dramatically less comfortable in the pocket than he felt in those seasons in Detroit where like everything was humming perfectly. And so there's just a little bit more urgency from him. They have not relocated him in terms of design rollouts and boots as much as I would have expected. And to me, that's the Dan Campbell side of the offense. And like, right, like that's Dan Campbell's like a Sean Payton, right? Like we go from the pocket, like this, we distribute. When they had the Ben Johnson years, and like the numbers aren't extravagant, they were not rolling him out a ton, but they did. They were booting him.
And now I'm trying to remember the last time I saw. Let me pull this up. It's a great point on the Jared Goff rollouts.
Yeah, so he's last I looked at the numbers, he was like bottom 6, bottom 8 in the league in terms of rollout on specifically under center dropbacks. You kind of have to control for some of the shotgun offenses, but in general, like anecdotally, that's not a lever they're pulling nearly the way that Ben Johnson used to. I'd really like to see them get back to that. It's a workable extension off of how well the running game's been working with Gibbs. Their target on a lot of the rollout stuff tended to be Sam Laporta, and they don't have Sam Laporta right now. And so like they have to kind of, find a new mode for it. But in general, like to me, if the Lions can get Goff moving a little bit more, and maybe it's something they're saving for the postseason to kind of use when they need it, I think that's going to help them account for and cover up the deficiencies there on the interior. It is also worth noting that the expectation is that original starting left guard Christian Mahogany, who was not amazing, but not a huge problem, is expected to have his practice window open this week. Not guaranteed that he's back week 15, week 16. I don't know. We don't know anything about how healthy he is, but reportedly they might be opening his window. If they can get him back for the postseason, that will be a bump.
I think IOL is the correct choice. But do we have any concerns about the back end of this defense? You lose Brian Branch. Corners have had their ups and downs.
The Lions secondary is really hard to predict because it's the exact moment at which 4 of them are hurt that they have just like an unbelievable,
Yeah.
we're going to play press coverage. We're going to get 9 DPI flags. We're just going to be so physical that we're able to shut you down game. They're over the last 5 weeks, they are the second worst defense by EPA per dropback allowed.
I was just about to,
Yeah. They cannot get after the pass. Like when they go press, because that's what they do. Even if it's like Rocky Scene out there, they go, they press and they say, survive on these islands. Eventually our pass rush will get home. And like the corner play and the depth there is an issue. They also just haven't been getting the quick pressures that they need to from Ian Hutchinson, from Malik McNeil, from Alkane Muhammad. Now Marcus Davenport's back. But like the lack of depth in pass rush, teams are chipping Hutch a lot, and he's not being nearly as effective within the first 2-3 seconds of the snap. He still has good pressure on sack numbers, but a lot of those are extension plays. There's the defense is a very serious concern.
Yeah, the Cowboys game. I was just looking at some of the numbers from these cornerback. I mean, again, it's the Cowboys, but before Lamb got hurt, it was pretty ugly.
Yeah,
just like pulling it up right now. Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, DJ Reed, 130 yards, nearest defender. Okay, I got the Bears next. I'm going pass rush here.
Yeah, and you can pick anything on the defense.
You could pick anything on the defense. I think what was so jarring was just watching Dennis Allen continuously try to blitz Jordan Love because he knew they had no chance of getting pressure without it, and putting his DBs in really horrible positions. See, they were playing a lot of big nickel because Kyler Gordon didn't come back, so CJ Gardner-Johnson should not have been covering those guys in man coverage 20 plus yards down the field. But it was like, and again, you could quibble with Allen, in his approach, but he did that because this defense is 31st in pass rush win, 30th in pressure rate, 25th in sack rate. Their highest rank player in pressures is Montez Sweat, who ranks 43rd league wide. No one else is above that. If I think about this team, and like a win in the playoffs is something where they can control the football by running it because that's their most dominant trait. But I do not love this team in a shootout because of that pass defense. It's just not a good pass defense right now.
Yeah, they are bottom 10 and everything you brought up, and then they're like third in turnovers per drive, or takeaways per drive, I should say, for the defense. And it's like, yep, I've seen this story before, right? Where it's just down to down, you are not surviving, but you Nashawn Wright, like Kevin Byard, to their credit, they have gone and acquired defensive backs who are good at catching the football. Not all of them are. So they're able to get these takeaways and get these field flipping plays. They get their leads and then they sit on it. Babe, you get to the postseason, no. It's just you're going to run into an offense that doesn't turn the football over, that protects themselves from it, and then they lean on you for 60 minutes. They're just more talented than you.
I was so bad because I spent all week saying this, and I was like, they can't keep getting turnovers to cover up for their like bad pass defense. And then Jordan Love threw one of the goofiest turn. I was just like, Jordan, like otherwise he was amazing in that game, but he just threw one of the like most boneheaded interceptions of the season.
We used to say of Josh Allen that he had to get hit, like he had to get the first quarterback hit in before he started playing well. Love's got to have his first pick before he starts playing well. Like the best Love games are always preceded by a first quarter interception that makes just absolutely no sense, and then he's lights out for the rest of the way. Very odd.
Just a funny quarterback. Who they play this week? Okay, Cleveland. I did briefly, I just want to address this because NFL Live, we talked about this game a lot, and I last week when we talked about the Bears, I was like, I the offense will be fine, the defense is what concerns me, and everybody was like, how can you like the offense is so inconsistent throwing the ball, and obviously Williams the first half was bad, but I loved. It's not like a moral victory, but I loved so much in the second half Ben Johnson's approach and the fact that he stuck to his guns with the run game and just insane amounts of play action. It's funny because that to me is like the Lions DNA. It's like, oh, cool, we're behind. We're not going to change our identity at all. We're going to put together an 8.5 minute drive and just grind you down. And obviously they lost, but I did love seeing that from them. And Caleb I thought was much better in the second half.
These stats are a little old, but Deontay Lee of The Ringer tweeted this out. It was end of November. Passing EPA per drop back, first half to second half. Chicago jumps from 18th to 8th. Rushing success rate, first half to second half. Chicago jumps from 16th to 1st, right? Ben Johnson, Declan Doyle, that offensive coaching staff in the halftime locker room sits down and they like, and that's trickle down stuff, right? That's like the offensive analyst, the passing coordinator, that's the guys who are charting and everything. They figure stuff out, and then they come back and they're a lot stronger in the second half. I'm like, I Bears 2025, I got my doubts. I'm buying as much stock as I can in this team 2026 and beyond. Like, they are very clearly sharp. They get it. They are good situationally. The quarterback has very clear buy-in. They are like Kyle Monangai has just taken the running back one job, right? This is the sort of team where they say we have a veteran free agent, we have a 7th round rookie. Who's outperforming who? Like, we're going to be serious about earning our reps here. They are. I'm so impressed. Even though they lost a game to the Bears on a last second interception, that's going to be the ups and downs of a young team.
Yeah. All right, Cowboys. This is you. We got 2 more.
Yeah, they just don't have solutions in the back end. Like, there was a great moment there after the bye. DeMarvin Overshown came back, and Savon Revel and Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson, both starting safeties, are there. And like, all right, we're going to have a stable defensive back 7 now. There's going to be speed and there's going to be talent. We're going to pressure the quarterback with Quinn Williams. Yeah, since the bye, they're 4th worst in EPA per dropback. They were 2nd worst previously, right? Like, in the first 2 games out of the bye, they looked good, but now they've run into some better passing offenses. They also still have a below league average pressure rate since the bye, since Quinn Williams got there. Their plays on which they get pressure are very good, but the idea that they are like now like an elite pressure team is incorrect. They do win when they get pressure. They just are not actually like deep enough and consistent enough in taking away the quick pass such that they can be a team that dominates you with their front 4. And that's because the secondary is not good enough. Matt Eberflus also like going to be a zone heavy guy, going to allow the quick pass. That's always going to neuter a defense's ability to their pass rush. And so they're a little bit out of chips there, a little bit out of bullets in terms of like, this will really the thing that saves our defense. They're definitely capable of takeover games, right? The Cowboys win an upset game as the 7th seed in the playoffs. I won't be the least bit surprised because they have opportunistic players. They have field tipping players there in Quinn Williams, Donovan Azarek, who's been great, but this is not a consistent enough defense to make a playoff run.
Yeah, I agree, man. Secondary, they don't have enough players, and we'll see if Revel can take a step next year. That's probably what I imagine they'll address in the draft. But down the stretch, you've got the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, the Giants. Obviously, you could win all those games. The Eagles have to lose 2 for them to catch up.
Doable. Don't worry about it. We will do our part over here. You guys got to handle your part over there.
I'll do my part. The Eagles have the Commanders twice, I think.
I can't stress this enough. Doable. Doesn't matter the schedule. It can be done.
Who do you think teams want to see less in the playoffs? This is such a first take question. I'm hitting you. Hello.
I need the reps. I need the reps. Hit me. I got you.
All right. Who do you think teams are more afraid of seeing in the playoffs? This is so first take. Cowboys or Eagles?
The LeBron James Lakers. I would rather see the Eagles. I think that's very hard. No, because the Eagles, it's Cowboys. It's Cowboys.
Eagles defense is really
it's Cowboys because I'm really confident that if I get 2 stops, I can beat that team. Whereas with the Eagles, like that's going to be a 1-score game pretty much the whole way. Who that defense is, and then they still have like AJ Brown and Saquon, whatever. It is the Cowboys. It's coming off that Eagles game. It's very tempting to say Eagles. It's still the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think the Lions game was very illuminating, right? Because you were coming off of these like performances from the defense, and everyone's feeling like, wow, the Cowboys are back, and it's like, oh, here comes a real passing offense, and Goff was excellent.
I love how much of the conversation is like the defense is fixed, and by the numbers they got like from like 31st to 28th. It kills me. It's very funny.
Okay, sticking with defense, Panthers. Interesting because, I've said this week to week, the quarterback is obviously very hard to predict. And I understand that some people might go in that direction. But this pass defense isn't good. It's not. It's just bad. And they're, bottom 5 and they're 32nd in EPA per play against the pass. Mm-hmm. They don't get enough pressure, particularly at edge, outside of, Derek Brown up the middle. The corners, Mike Jackson's playing pretty well, but the safeties are very gettable. I give up a lot of yards to tight ends.
Yeah, I'm about to say. So most, it's 2.2 yards per route run. It's like by a mile the most in the league right now.
I'm sorry. I said they're 32nd EPA per play versus the pass. I meant versus tight ends. That was something I looked up because I was that's worse than the Bengals, which I didn't think it would be possible in 2025 if anybody has watched Bengals against this
The Bengals are such a helpful defense this year because if you really want to stress how bad some other team are, you're like, look they're worse than the Bengals. It's clarifying, yeah.
They are 32nd EPA per play versus tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
You got some good ones in the NFC, so I don't love that. I think the run defense is improved, and I think they have the type of run game where they can win games like they did against LA. But I think this would be the worst. Would it be the worst defense to get into the playoffs in the NFC? Well, of all the defenses that we've discussed, the past defenses.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I still take Dallas over them just because of the pass, like Quinnen and that pass rush potential is better. Yeah.
They just need more guys.
Yeah. It's very nice of you not to pick quarterback. If I were given the Panthers, which perhaps is why I was not given the Panthers, they would have been quarterback for me for sure. But defensively, yeah, like they made a ton of free agent investments and they tried to get this unit from, it's kind of cellar dwelling to middle of the road. And for large stretches of the season, they have been middle of the road. They still they lack the horses in the back seven, right? Especially at linebacker where they've had these injuries.
Linebacker, yes. Yeah. That's another part of the tight end thing.
And it's tricky because two of the best passing offenses in the NFC they faced, the Packers and the Rams, they've had these hero games against them. And so there has been some proof of concept that there's enough punch in there, but like season-long numbers indicate that those are kind of peak games. Really hard to have 3 peak games in a row in the NFC playoffs. Like it's cool when it happens, right? We get 2020 Bengals runs, but it's just hard to see.
Bucks Panthers. Nerf gun to the head. Who's in?
I think the Panthers will beat the Bucks. I really do. Like the Bucks are so toothless right now. Yeah, and like a home playoff game for the Panthers. Dave Canales, like he deserves those flowers. He deserves that moment. They've done a lot of good stuff there in terms of Dan Morgan building that team. If it leads to toxic Bryce Young discourse, it's going to drive me crazy.
All right. We will be back tomorrow or Thursday. It comes out Thursday to preview Week 15. Ben, we've got some good games on the schedule, particularly Bills Patriots. Whew. I cannot wait for that. That's probably, Packers Broncos really good. Lions Rams obviously big, but Bills Pats, the narratives.
Yeah, so it's for a lot of marbles here. All right.
A lot of
have you seen the the whole Josh Allen? I've seen a lot of if Josh Allen can't win the AFC this year with no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow in the playoffs, when's he gonna do it? He might not beat Drake May next week. I don't know. There's a new kid in town there in the AFC. It's Drake.
Can't wait. All right, so we'll be back on Thursday to talk about those games. You guys can check this out at youtube.com/@MinaKimes. Ben has an article today that I just opened. That's excellent. That talks about things like the Chiefs offense, whether they can be fixed, the Eagles, of course, the Jags.
I put my belief in the Jags on paper. It was a very poor decision. It's going to bite me in the butt very quickly.
I'm facing Tice in our fantasy playoffs, and he has Trevor Lawrence. So I have Jackson Dart against the Commanders, which I'm feeling pretty good about for fantasy purposes. Yeah. But Trevor Lawrence, I need this Trevor Lawrence here to come to an end personally.
Jags are 12.5-point favorites against the Jets this week. It is the biggest the Jags have been a favorite in 18 years. Have you ever felt a worse Jags loss coming than right now?
I don't like that. I do like what we saw from the Jags, and it sounds like Ben did too. So go read that article. We're talking about that game, of course. And I'll see you guys then. Bye.